Does finals week and all the work coming up have you worried, nervous, frantic, freaked out, upset, whatever you want to call it? It's normal to feel stress and anxiety during finals week, but you don't have to feel overwhelmed, and this video can help you out. Why am I saying this? Because I've taught at universities for over 10 years, and every semester when the work starts going up and up for my students, I give them the same advice I'm going to give in this video. And every time, the smiles come back on their faces, they relax a little bit, and they're able to focus on the work ahead. So let's get started. Hi, my name's Mike Robinson, and this is my YouTube channel, Minding the Frame. Like I said, I've been teaching animation, film, and design for over 10 years at some of Asia's top arts universities. Like I said, I've given the same fatherly advice to my students at the end of each semester to help them feel less overwhelmed. I'm not going to sit here and scold you about, you need to be working harder, you need to study more, or give you some complicated time management system for study scheduling. It's not going to be anything like that. And yes, I'm going to talk about some psychology a little bit, but it's not going to be any new agey touch deep into your soul to let your spirit out or any of that corny stuff. It's going to be practical stuff that can get you feeling less overwhelmed and ready to face that work ahead. And there's even a beautiful side to all of this that I want to get into later in the video. So what's the first thing to do to stop feeling overwhelmed by finals week? It's not get in a panic. What do I mean by that? Well, usually I see students being stressed out towards the end of the semester, and I can sense there's this terrible story running through their heads, which goes something like this. Oh, I'm going to do poorly on that project. And if I do poorly on this project or test, then I'm going to get a bad grade in the class. And if I get a bad grade in the class, my GPA and grades will go down, and my parents will find out and they'll hate me. And then I might get thrown out of the family. And then I will get thrown out of school and I won't graduate. Then I can't find a job. And I'm on the streets, homeless, begging for change, and maybe I'm gonna have to sell my body, and I die poor and alone, and I'll burn in hell forever. Okay, I mean, do you see how ridiculous that sounds? I mean, I know that's not gonna happen, but usually this is a trail of panic, and every time I tell this silly story in class, my students kind of laugh and recognize themselves a little bit. Maybe you did too. It's all in good fun, but really, coming back and being a little more serious about this, it's going to be okay. It's not going to turn into this disaster. One bad thing is not going to set off this terrible chain of events, right? And if you're really worried about your parents, or somebody hating you for bad grades, that kind of sounds like a toxic relationship. And maybe you need to evaluate that. But wait a second, you don't have time to evaluate that, right? Because it's finals week. And that brings us to our next piece of advice. Let's keep things in perspective. So now that we've stopped panicking a bit, we can start to keep things in perspective, right? And the simplest level, it just means that finals week is just a couple of weeks. And maybe it's not pleasant, but finals week does end. You will turn in your project. You will take that test or turn in that paper or whatever it is, but all the work has to be turned in and it will stop. And so just knowing, hey, this is not going to be pleasant maybe, but it's only for a few weeks, can hopefully get you to put things in perspective. Another thing to keep in perspective is that this is only one semester. This is only one class, one project within that class, and it's not going to make or break you. There will be other semesters. There are already other classes you're taking that you may be stronger in. Whatever you're worried about, it is one small part of a bigger picture of your studies. So keep it all in perspective. I thought I'd make a quick note here that there have been a handful of times when I've been teaching at universities where there were students that were in serious academic trouble. And in nearly all the cases, the student got help. The school intervened, they figured something out, they got them back on track, and they went on to have healthy, productive lives, some of them being very successful. So even in these bad situations, in most cases that I've seen, things work out as well. So, great. Now we're keeping things in perspective. We've stopped panicking. What's next? Well, you really need to watch your health in these next few weeks, particularly your mental health. At a school I worked at, one of the administrators told me that every semester, about 6 students every time at the end of the semester would check into the hospital for mental health issues. That is incredible. Remember, mental health issues that require hospitalization. We're not talking about feeling stress, general stress, unhappiness, and what have you. Stuff that requires hospitalization, 6 students every semester. This was a school of about 10 to 12,000 students, but still, that's a very high number. So when I say take care of your health, what do I mean? At its most basic level, you need to get some sleep, especially for mental health. With all this pressure and working hard and staying up late, students often deprive themselves of sleep. There's a huge difference, even if it's just 30 minutes of sleep versus none. When you have no sleep, you are at risk for these mental health issues that, like in my old school, affected a small number of students every semester. The other thing is, there's a tendency when you're pulling all these late night cram sessions, work sessions, to just live on coffee, sugar, and grease. So watch out on the coffee. Try to eat some healthy meals. You're going to be sleep deprived with bad diet is not a good combination. And any other bad habits that are worse than coffee, and I think you might know what I'm talking about, this is the time to chill out on those too. It is definitely a risk and something you need to watch out for. Okay, so we're taking care of our health. We're not panicking. We're keeping things in perspective. What do we have to do next? Watch your health for the next few years. And what I mean by that is there's a tendency, maybe you've noticed it already, where you cram and deprive yourself during finals week and you just have this super intense period where you have no sleep, bad food, and then you relax and release, and you cram and release and crunch and crash. And it's just a roller coaster. If you don't even out that roller coaster, it is going to be a bad lifetime cycle for you. You might be thinking, oh, I won't have to worry about this when I graduate. No, this will happen after you graduate in the work world. You will have things where you will have deadlines and you have this enormous amount of pressure, and it'll be very much like finals week in the work world. And if you don't find some way to avoid this pattern of depriving and cramming yourself for this crunch time and then releasing in later, you're going to have very bad long-term health. You can't sustain it. And I know because in my 30s, I started losing the energy level I used to have in the 20s. What do we do here? Well, it's a very deep topic and there's a lot of health and wellness behind this, but I think the simple awareness that you're having this roller coaster pattern in your life and anything you can do to even it out will help. So basic good habits, are you procrastinating things and leaving it to the last minute so that it becomes a crazy rush? Whatever things might be, things that you're doing that get in the way, whatever that is, it's time to start looking at them, and just trying to get it under control a bit will help you out long term. Now, everything I've told you about taking care of yourself and looking at things long term and easing the pressure, it's not permission to goof off. I didn't say, hey, I can just take care of my mental health by playing video games or chilling out on the couch or whatever it is you do to relax. You're still going to have to work hard and put in a good effort. And that is key to the beautiful thing about finals week that I mentioned earlier. My nickname for it is you can do the medicine. What I mean by that is that knowing you can handle the pressure of finals week will really help you out in the long term. And there's something reassuring and even beautiful about that. Why do I call it You Can Do the Medicine? Well, this actually comes from the fact that my father is a physician, and growing up with him over the years, I would hear him talk about his medical internship. And the way he describes it, and the way it actually is when I looked it up for this video, is the finals week from hell. Physicians have to spend, after 4 years of medical school, they need to spend an entire year where they're working 14 to 18-hour days, making life and death decisions with very little sleep, all sorts of scenarios, and they're being rigorously critiqued and reviewed by a senior physician on staff. So naturally, I would hear my dad growing up over the dinner table complain about this and just moan about, oh, so awful, oh. And I can't remember how it came about, but at one point, and probably when I was dealing with my finals week in high school or whatever, I said, well, Dad, it sounds so terrible. Did you get anything out of it? Or why did you put up with that? And I was very surprised when he said, I'm really glad I did it. Glad you went through it. Why? And he said, because I know I can do the medicine. If I get a call at 3 in the morning and I'm tired and disoriented, I can quickly snap out of it and do the right thing to help a patient, even if it's a life and death, high stakes situation. I can make the right call. And in a similar way, by going through this finals week, whatever your workload might be, you can do the medicine, so to speak. You know that even with all this lack of sleep and stress and worry, you can make that final project. You can turn in that paper. You can get that grade on a test. The main thing is you got through it. And you know if you face another high stress situation, you can handle the pressure. And that is the great side of finals week. Despite all the stress, anxiety, and worry, at the end of the process, it does finish, you get through it, and you know you can handle things. So I hope you feel a little less overwhelmed, a little less stressed, a little less anxious, ready to focus on what you have to do ahead. I'm a brand new channel, so I'd love it if you'd press the like button and subscribe and all that jazz that every YouTuber makes. But really, if you know another student that's suffering or worrying, and I'm sure you've heard them talk this way, share this video with them. I'd love to know it's helping people out. And with that, I will see you guys in the next video.